Hey everyone, it's Tom Rich with another episode of Turn On Engagement podcast. In this episode, I'll be talking to the Vice President of Sales at Smartwool and VF Brands, Robert Follett. We're going to be talking about how the COVID pandemic has affected sales at Smartwool and what strategies they put in place to combat these speed bumps. Robert is also going to cover communication tactics that help them navigate through the changing times. Stay tuned. It's all coming up right here on Turn On Engagement podcast. Hello, everybody.
Sorry.
Thanks for joining me on the podcast today. Today, I have Robert Follett from the VF Brands, more particularly the Smartwool brands and Smartwool company. I have him join me today. He's all bundled up, nice and warm today, and he's got that good-looking beard going on with him as well. And grateful for him to spend some time with me and joining me today on this podcast. What I want to do is introduce Robert and give his background a little bit to help for the audience. And thanks for joining me first off and foremost, Robert. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. It's great to be here.
Yeah. So Robert is one of these. Looking at him, you'd never guess it. He's a man that grew up in the Los Angeles area, and he attended Loyola Marymount University. I'm sure there's a lot of stories we're not going to get into today on that one, but maybe another podcast. But he at that point started his career with the company called the Sport Chalet, and he was in the buying. He got into the buying department, spent a lot of time there, several years in the buying department, worked his way up, if you will, and I'm sure it was up, sideways, and all the above with Sport Chalet. Did a lot of various things with them and for them, and then from there he moved his ranks up, and then from there he moved into a company, as I mentioned, Smartwool, and in 2015 he joined Smartwool over there on the wholesale division, and Robert's been there ever since. He's been married for 24 years. Congratulations on that. And he's got 4 kids, I believe, ranging from 21 to 6. What a nice range, and congratulations on that.
Yeah, thank you. Gluttons for punishment, for sure.
Oh, hey, I love it. That's why we're here, man. This is why we're here. Some of Robert's passions have to deal with being in the mountain related sports. A lot of time with mountain biking and snowboarding, and trying to cut an edge and not break his shoulder blade or not break his collarbone, I'm sure.
Exactly. That's exactly
Awesome.
Right.
Well, Robert, again, thanks for joining me. I've got 3 to 5 questions that I ask the participants on this podcast, and Robert's been gracious enough to again take some time out of his busy schedule to answer some for me. And so the first question, Robert, I'll ask you is, how have you communicated with your sales teams or executives during this COVID pandemic?
Well, it's been a long pandemic. I can't believe that it's already. I mean, we're at the 2-year mark, and a lot's changed and evolved over that time. Certainly, our organization, prioritized staying together. Having the teams communicate constantly. VF took a pretty aggressive stance as far as not losing talent during this pandemic. We all knew that, the pandemic is a temporary situation that we have to get through. But we wanted to come out on the other side of it, fully intact. And so one of the ways they did that is, maintain payroll. We did not have to suffer job cuts, which is great.
That's great. Yeah.
And really just kind of ramped up, weekly meetings. VF did a significant investment in technology where our teams were sent, cameras and ring lights and extra monitors, and make sure not to skip a beat.
Yeah.
So that's really, I think, been the majority of it. I mean, we end up being on Zoom calls a lot. So, there's that part of it, which honestly, Zoom, I've embraced. I actually really enjoy having a a face-to-face video call now.
Yeah.
Before the pandemic, you would do some of those, but not too many of them. I wouldn't.
Isn't
A
it
lot of
crazy
phone
how we
calls.
kind of evolved? It's how we've
Yeah.
evolved to if you said that, it was like that was a secondary thing, right? It's like, well, I can't meet in person, so I got to do this electronic meeting thing. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Now to where it's like that's the preferred. And if you're gonna do an in person, it's almost like, oh, you're intruding on me. It's kind of weird how we've evolved, hasn't it?
It is. I mean, you kind of have to manage expectations and availability. And, one of the things that our organization did is we sent out these kind of team charters to each department in the company and said, hey, how do your teams want to engage? When do they want to engage? When do they need to not be available, et cetera, et cetera. And we as a company made, a few policies around that, like Friday afternoon early release, no meeting Fridays, just to kind of keep people fresh and engaged when they are subjected to 6 hours straight of Zoom calls.
Yeah.
So, I think kind of one of the biggest things, honestly, that I think helped our organization was that, VF really prioritized, mental health and well-being and trying to have some semblance of balance, because as people that work from home, you can end up working from home 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Yeah.
So really they were honest about not burning out, which was fantastic as an employee.
Yeah.
To have an organization.
Good on them. It sounds like they put in some key things that are really, really important and vital. Mental health being one of them, and recognizing that, and obviously opening up it sounds like a static meeting, right? This Friday meetings, as well as giving you the means of which to operate with some monitors, the cameras, things like that to engage with it. And good for them. Let me ask you this: How has your communication gone with your vendors during this whole pandemic phase? And is there any software that you use with that or not, or just what they?
Yeah, I mean,
how does that work?
so it's kind of multifaceted. Being primarily on the sales side, our go-to is our laptops and Zoom and our computers. As we kind of delve down into that next layer of communication and interaction with the individual stores, the individual store employees, store managers, like all that kind of next layer down, which is where we really got choked off from. It just ended quickly, where we were not allowed in stores. Everything was done visually or virtually. So, we made an investment, on an app, we call it the Smartwool Insider. And this allowed us to maintain communication with our sales associate community. So if they happen to be shut down that day, or because early on the pandemic, people would get sick and they would just have to shut down for 10 days automatically.
Right.
So with our Insider app, it helps us kind of stay connected and navigate pandemic restrictions and shutdowns and store closings. And the good thing is that we rolled that out a couple of years before the pandemic. So we did not have to panic and put a quick stopgap and try to figure that out. We had really good engagement before. So it wasn't like we were trying to scramble and introduce something, via email to all of our associates and partners.
Right. No, that's awesome. What a good story. No, it sounds like, once again, VF Brands and you all were ahead of the game, and kudos to all of y'all. That's fantastic. Let me ask you this, Robert. What do you think you have or haven't learned? What have you learned about how you engage during this pandemic? What have you learned about yourself?
Oh man. Well, one of my personal defects, Tom, is that I can procrastinate a little bit. And so I've had to really kind of stay.
Welcome to our world. Yes.
Oh, dude, it's like, just don't backslide. I've been pretty good about not procrastinating. And then I will admit, during the pandemic, I started to have a little bit more of my procrastination temptations come into play. So, just kind of staying on that, staying disciplined. I mean, fortunately, I work remote before the pandemic, so I didn't have to deal with that. And it was interesting to watch, different departments kind of thrive or struggle in this new kind of work environment. But, because our team, the sales team is mainly remote anyways, we were able to kind of keep going, and it was relatively seamless.
Cool. My last question of the day for you, Robert, is this: How do you keep how do you keep yourself informed and motivated? How do the employees of VF, how do you feel as though the company keeps you guys motivated? How do you stay motivated during this unique time? What motivates you?
I honestly feel like, God, what motivates me? I obviously love the outdoors, and I just feel extremely fortunate to be able to make a living preaching my love of the outdoors. It happens to manifest itself into selling socks and clothes. But it's one of the advice that I give my kids, my many children, is just find the industry that you love, and it almost doesn't matter what you do in it, right? Just being connected to like-minded people is one of my greatest joys. And so when we look at our sales team, it's a well-tenured sales team. We did not have any kind of turnover. And it's it's the closeness of being around like-minded people, where I can just relate to them. They become friends, they become your family. So that I think just gives me immense joy. Is just, once again, just being there. Even though I live in LA, I do live at the bottom of the San Gabriel Mountains in the Angeles National Forest. So it's right outside my window every day, tempting me, wanting me to procrastinate on my work projects. Save back. Yeah, that's really, I think, what kind of keeps me motivated is just the joy that this brings me, and introducing it to my kids. And I will share that my 21-year-old son, who's engaged and he's about to be married in May, he sent me a text. Yeah, he sent me a text and he said, "Hey, just want to let you know we're gonna go backpacking in his fiance after their honeymoon." He's like, "And this is really a tradition I want to instill in my kids, is the same tradition that you instilled in yours, which is what we would do. We go backpacking." And that's what my dad did with me. So seeing him kind of really embrace it, it's just like, and it's this job in this industry that really paves the way. It makes it all accessible and doable for us.
Awesome, man. It's been fantastic meeting you, Robert, talking with you. I can see that VF Brands is lucky to have you on board for them and with them, and as well as the vendors that you represent, and all the brand that you represent. It's a fantastic brand. I am a Smartwool advocate, as I've told you before. Love the product, one of the best out there, and I love it. And I solicit for you all the time. And again, thank you for your time today. It's a pleasure meeting and talking with you. And I can see why VF Brands has you in place, and it's a great thing you're doing.
Well, thank you, Tom. I really appreciate the kind words, and I appreciate the opportunity to come on and talk about what we love doing.
All right. Thank you.
Hey there, employee communications and HR folks. We've got some big news to share over here at HubEngage. We've officially been made a Society of Human Resource Management recertification provider. So if you're a SHRM member and you're in need of getting your mandatory recertification credits, you can tune into our new webinar series where we educate and train you on a variety of HR-related topics and trends, so you're up to date on your continuing education requirement. SHRM is a great place for all things HR, and with this exciting new partnership HubEngage has created, we can now recertify you while you turn on engagement at the same time inside of your company. For more details and to sign up for a recertification course with one of our HubEngage SHRM certified experts, visit hubengage.com and click on the SHRM tab under resources to get started today.